Ladies, gentlemen, and germs of all persuasion, it is that time again. Ready? Rolling. What time is that? It's 10 pages a day time, and I was trying to make that up as, what time is it? It's summertime. I'm not clever enough to make that a parody on the fly, but it's 10 pages a day time, which is where all year long I see how many books I can get read by simply reading 10 pages a day. Fine, I hear you begging me for some context, so we'll speed run this real fast. I've always been a bookworm, always been a book nerd, and I always read for fun. I was a very big reader ever since I was a child, but by the time I got to high school, like a lot of kids in everywhere, my relationship to my personal reading versus academic reading started from here on the graph, and then by the time I got to high school, started having an inverse relationship. Right? And then, by the time I got to college, because I was a history, political science, all that blah, 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 very much reading major, words all the time. Too many words happening here. It was an even worse inverse relationship. So it was basically just going for academic reading and for personal reading, because who's got time for that? Who's even got time for all the academic reading? None. They just want to see what you do get out of it, what you do get read, because they know you don't have time to read all that. No one does. Anyway, I got sick and tired of it, because I was like, man, I'm just reading for fun. I want to read for fun. And so my senior year, also the Panditi, I was like, what if I just pick a book and read 10 pages a day in it every morning before class? Just 10 pages a day. Realistic, I can do it with my coffee, sitting in my, campus apartment. I can do that. And I did it, and I loved it, and it was so helpful. And then, when I got out of college, a couple years ago, I was like, man, I have all these books. I'm starting to get back into personal reading now that I actually have the time and resources to do it, but I have all these books that have been sitting on my shelf for Satan knows how long, and I still want to get to them. I don't want to unhaul them, but I feel so intimidated by them because they're like these huge nonfiction books, because I was in my nonfiction girly era when I was in high school, and still kind of am. But anyway, it sort of became a problem, and I was like, how do I tackle this? What if I just do 6 months of 10 pages a day? Let's see how it goes. Vlog that. It went well. I love the result. And I've been doing it for the year long, every year ever since. And so that's what we're doing here again. This is the 2025 edition of 10 pages a day. Now, if you're new here, let's go over some ground rules that I have for myself personally, but if you want to do this, you don't have to follow these rules. I'm not your mother. I'm not your guard dog. You do whatever you want. These are my personal rules. Number one book at a time. Otherwise, it gets really confusing and stupid. Because I also keep track of the stats, so I'll take a book, I'll be like, oh, it's 400 pages, I'll write down, I think it should take me 40 days to finish this, but I estimate maybe 36, because that follows into rule 2, you don't always have to read exactly 10 pages, that can be 10 minimum, because maybe you start on page 1, but by the time you get to page 10, chapter 2 is on page 12, so there's like a page and a half between. Just get to the next chapter. Read those 2 pages, so you read 12 pages. So here, it slowly adds up, but 10 is like the minimum to shoot for, I usually go for like a 5-page limit, so if there's not a next chapter or a next section within 15 pages, then I stop at 10 and I leave that for the next day. But if I get to page 10 and there's a new chapter or a new section within the next 5 pages, then I'll go ahead and read those extra pages. That just keeps it accountable, keeps it minimum for me. So 10 to 15, but 10 the minimum. That's good for me. Do whatever the heck you want. So 1 book at a time, and also 10 is the minimum. There's a third rule. I always forget what the third rule is. What is it? What is it? Don't eat your meatballs without spaghetti. And that's a dumb rule too. You shouldn't follow that. The main antagonist this year is getting so many big chunky nonfiction off my shelves like every year. But this time, we want to be more consistent. I had a lot happen in 2024, which if you're new here, you did not see that video, I'll link it up in the card so you can see all of what went on. But basically, I baby drivered a little too close to the sun, and so it was quite a big year for me. And so the fact that I missed a lot of reading and didn't get every single day, not shocking. And I just want to try and be more consistent this year, and I want to be kinder to myself about it. But that we'll say that's the third rule. You don't have to do it every day. If you feel like you missed a couple days because you got busy with work or life, or whatever, you baby driver a little too close to the sun, don't do that. Don't be me. Don't feel like you have to make it up. As long as you are feeling true to the vibe of it, which is just to get yourself to read more, maybe things that you've been intimidated by, maybe things that have been on your shelf, maybe you just want to start a small habit of daily reading. And it could be like 10 pages of a magazine. It doesn't have to be like literature, okay? If it's words, if you're reading words and you're reading pictures, you want to read a picture book, go So 10 pages to 10 pages. 10 pages to 10 pages. So do that. And if you miss a day or two, don't feel like you have to make it up in order to get this big number at the end of it. It's fine. It's fine. As long as you're feeling like you're going for the intention that in your mind you're like, man, I really wanted to read that 10 pages today, but I didn't get to. But that's the point, is that it's now in your mind of like, I really want to. And that is a success in and of itself. And you should give yourselves 10 pats on the back. Okay, but let's get into it. Let's see how this year is gonna go. Good evening and Happy New Year, or close enough. It's January 1st. Don't worry about the fact that it's almost 11 p.m. It's still January 1st. So that means we're on to our first book of this year's edition of 10 Pages a Day. The first book I chose because last year, which is weird to say considering it was just yesterday, over the course of last year, a lot of the books that I chose were a lot of my big, chunky nonfiction books, which, you know, as we've established, is perfectly fine, because that's kind of what this challenge is for, to take on some of those big boys. But I wanted to give my brain a little bit of a break, and also last year, so I have a self-set challenge to read Kurt Vonnegut and Ernest Hemingway's, like, bibliographies. Last year, I finished Kurt Vonnegut's main bibliography, like, the main novels. This year, I'm coming for Hemingway. I've read a couple, but this year I'm gonna finish the main bibliographies, or the main novels of the bibliography. So I chose my copy, my beautiful vintage copy of The Sun Also Rises. I figured this was a nice, kind of short, I mean, it's less than 300 pages, sweet, possibly, start to the year. Hemingway's one of my favorite writers, obviously. I feel comfortable in his work, I feel comfortable with his writing, I feel like it'll be an easy start for me to read 10 pages in this every day, just a good strong start to the challenge, because I hope that I'm going to love this, but I also know it's not going to be too mentally taxing, because, no offense to Hemingway, not that his reading doesn't require thought, but just taking away the non-fiction in comparison, because reading too much of it can sometimes feel like a chore, especially on days where, like me, you have so much to do and your brain is just being pulled apart in 37 different directions. That's how I kind of am at the start of this year, trying to finish a bunch of videos. So I want something that I can not only enjoy, but also not really have to think too much in depth about. This is too long of an explanation. I just want to read this book, and I just want to have a fun, easy time while doing it. Editing Chey in a place that you're not used to seeing her. I am at my parents' house. I came to surprise my mom for her birthday, and I'm about to head back home and finish a bunch of stuff. But I wanted to come on here and tell you, nay, have to tell you, that as I was editing this video, I found out that some of the clips were missing, and I cannot find them. I have searched all of my hard drives, I've searched my old laptop, I downloaded a lot of the batch files from my old laptop to hope to find some original copies. I think what happened was, sometimes when I'm filming more than one video, I'm like, you know what, let me film this part for this certain video, for video A, and then I'm gonna go ahead and film this clip for video B. Then, when I batch import them all from my phone, especially this new iPhone, because the new iPhone won't sync to my laptop like old iPhones would and just sync all the photos and stuff. No, it wants to do everything and crashes my laptop, so I have to go in and find the actual files and just drag and drop the entire full files and not know what I'm importing, just hope for the best. And so if I want to edit, I just airdrop it to my Mac, which I have a PC, like I have a Windows laptop and I have my Mac. And so now I just airdrop. Anyway, all you need to know is that I think what happened is when I batch imported them, I think they got put in another videos file, and then when I finished that video, they got deleted, because that's the only thing I can think of, because I can't find them anywhere else. I know they existed. I remember filming them. Don't know where they went. Watch me finish this video and then find them, and I'm going to be very mad. It's only a few clips, so I'm just going to summarize them all for you right here. Number 1, the summary of The Sun Also Rises. And number 2, why I picked my next book, Little Fires Everywhere. And then 3, my review of Little Fires Everywhere. It seems like everything else seems to be in order, like all the reviews and stuff like that. And I can understand. I think I know why these 3 things specifically, because this was around the time I was starting my 28K challenge. Actually, Little Fires Everywhere was in the middle of my 28K challenge, and I finished it during the middle of my 28K challenge, link up in cards above, because that was an insane video. But if I ended up doing the summary in the 28K video, I'm just going to post it in here when I need to. Number 1, my thoughts on The Sun Also Rises. I can see why it's a classic Hemingway. I also understand why it's a lot of people's introduction to Hemingway, considering like the whole Lost Generation thing and his early work. And it's very modern lit ficky vibe out of all of Hemingway's work. I know Hemingway is lit fic. It is the most modern lit ficky feeling. So if you're a fan of modern lit fic and you want to try Hemingway, I would suggest to you The Sun Also Rises. That being said, I'm not really a fan of modern contemporary like lit fic. The whole like lost, I need to find myself, and the story is for nothing. So I didn't love this Hemingway. I didn't hate it. I really liked it. I think I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars, but it just was not my favorite. I love the writing. I love Hemingway's writing style. He's kind of like Stephen Graham Jones in that you either love or you hate his writing style, and I loved it. I mean, I could tell it was early on, in work and developing and stuff like that, but I really enjoyed it. And I like the story overall. It just wasn't satisfying to me. Half the time I was just like, I don't like some of these people. And that's kind of the thing with Hemingway. You're not supposed to like all his characters. They're just people. And I love that. I love writers that aren't afraid to write unlikable characters, not for the sake of being edgy or trying to make a point, but just because they're interesting to follow, kind of like a Walter White sort of thing. Like, you don't have to like them to want to know what happens to them. And I think Mark Lawrence said that about my favorite character, Jordan Krath, because people were like, is he a hero, is he a villain? And he's like, I don't think that they have to be either category for you to know what happens to them in their story. And I agree with that. And I would say that goes for this. There are some characters I like, some characters I didn't care for. And I think the thing is just that I didn't really care about a bunch of like friends gallivanting around Gatsby style and all the interpersonal drama that was going on with them. That's not my vibe. It's not my vibe. But I didn't hate it. I was just like, this is not my favorite Hemingway. The next book I ended up choosing was Little Fires Everywhere. I wish I could find the clip of me introing this book. Also, I feel like there's a hair just hanging in front of my nose and it's making me sniff. Little Fires Everywhere. This, I got a copy from my library as a discard copy during their Friends of the Library sale. I've heard so much about this book and I've seen it when it was advertised all over Hulu for the adaptation or whatever it was. I never watched it, but I had heard so much about this book. I heard about it from Jan, my good friend Jan Agaton, and link to her channel down below. And I was like, you know what? I'm supporting my local library. I'm going to grab it. And anything Jan loves, I'm going to try. Because me and Jan, we share enough of the same taste to where I'm like, yeah, I'll give it a shot. I wanted to try it. And I'm glad I got it from the library because it was a hardback, right? Library bound hardback. And I want to give it a shot. I know nothing about it, except I think I knew nothing about it. I think the only thing that I knew, besides the blurb, was just that it was crazy family dynamics or something. And it had good representations and discussions surrounding race, surrounding class, surrounding poverty, stuff like that. And so I was very interested to pick it up. Little Fires Everywhere. I like this book. It had beautiful prose. I thought it had great discussions surrounding the intersections of class, race, privilege, individuality, and overall circling the American dream, or what the American dream means to various individuals in various life paths, and how that can be the American nightmare for others. I liked the character studies within the book and how they actually felt like they were influencing events, how things weren't just happening to them, like their decisions actually had weight. However, when the story mostly got to be about babies, it lost me. I don't care. I don't care about kids. I don't care about the custody or the whole maternal freaking discussion. I don't care. Now, you want to talk about how class and race and all that intersect with all that in society? Sure, I'm game, because I love that prose earlier in the book, but when you spend like 3 pages talking about like a mother's love and... I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. And so I feel bad, but I still rated it. Like, I think I rated it 5 stars, maybe 4.5. I rated it highly because that's nothing against the book. That's very much a content thing for Chey. That's not an actual problem for the book. That's just something I would be mindful of when recommending this book, is that it does take a turn towards the maternal at the end, like that being a big theme. So if you just don't care about kids like I do, or don't care about the fleshing out of discussions of motherhood and stuff like that, then you're gonna be skimming a lot of pages. You shouldn't though, because the book is actually beautiful, and it is so good. Heidi ho, good neighbors. I'm here with an update, because I've already started another book. I finished Little Fires Everywhere. I will talk about it in a minute, probably in the morning, because it's all the way over there and I don't feel like going to get it. But I finished it, and so I'll give my review forthcoming. I promise I won't be too long. I finished it a couple of days early, and the next book that I've started is The Rise and Fall of the House of Medici, which is a nonfiction book about the Medici. One of my hyper-historical fixations from when I was a child. I was not an Egypt kid. I was not a World War II kid. I was a Revolutionary War Leonardo da Vinci Medici kid. And my love for Leonardo da Vinci was actually what's got me started into learning Italian and studying a lot of his, it was one of my hyperfixations, one of my most interesting delves into history. I've read a lot about the Medici. I've read a lot about Da Vinci, but this is a book that has just eluded me because it's been on my shelf, it's been on my want to reads for so long, and I just haven't. I think this is the copy that my cousin got me from Italy when she went to Italy in high school. That's how long I've been wanting this. She's a full doctor now, and she got this for me, I'm pretty sure, when she was in high school. That's how long I've had this, because this doesn't even have the US price on it. It has UK and Canada. So I'm assuming that this is the one that she got in Italy. Honk, honk. The Medici were a famously, or by some accounts, infamously famous family in Florence, Italy. They were patrons of the arts, they were bankers, they were rebel rousers. Everyone's got a different take on it, and that's kind of what I love about history, is that the facts are there, right? But there's always something to learn. There's always someone's perspective to learn from their first person point of view to see how, like, they viewed the incident or the story of what happened and what things were interplaying, interweaving, and how they led to one another, or how they influenced one another, I should say, not causality. So I'm very excited to read this. I'm very excited to take it all in, to learn more about the Medici, to learn more about Florence, to learn more about Italy at the time. Wow, nerd. It is March 3rd, and I finished Little Fires Everywhere February 20th. So I started reading this on February 21st. I've been slacking, not too worried about it, because I estimate it'll take about 30 days for me to finish this, give or take, because a little bit of this is like notes and stuff, as you expect. But I've had a friend over for the past couple days, and he's coming back this weekend. So reading hasn't really been a focus, but these next 2 days I'm really going to be focusing on reading heavy. So we'll get it done then. I'm not worried about it. I may read like another 10 pages to catch up tonight. Help catch up tonight, I should say. It's no big deal. But I'm loving it. It's told in a accessible way, but it reads from someone who knows what they're talking about, which is a good thing. But if you're picking this up as like an airport book, you will probably never pick it up again, because it is, that sounds mean. Oh, that sounds so mean. I just mean, like, it's information that sticks with you if you're interested in it, but I can see how if someone wasn't really into it and they just picked it up thinking like, oh, this will be an interesting historical read, I think it's a lot of information that might not stick with you if you have no context for it, but I don't know. I don't know you. Who am I to judge? I'm gonna go to bed. I'll see you in the morning to talk about Little Fires Everywhere. Bye. It's been a little bit, and I have bad news for an update. We are so behind, it's not even funny. It is just sad. We are 35 days behind. Now, it gets a little bit complicated, so let me explain it. I have to lean you against something because we're outside against my picnic table, because it's so nice outside today. I was supposed to finish this on March 22nd. Would you like to guess what day it is? It's April 26th. I'm still not done with this. That's not to say that I haven't read any in it. Obviously, I've been trying to finish it, and I'm about 50 pages out from finishing it. So I haven't missed 35 days, because I've read on some of the days since the day that I was supposed to finish it, but because I clearly missed some days that I did not read, hence why I did not finish it on March 22nd, I'm just leaving it there for the sake of easy girl math. So it balances out. We're saying that I've just missed 35 days every single day since the day that I was supposed to finish this. That's just what we're saying for the sake of easy girl math, okay? But I'm telling you that I came up with an easy math because I came up with an easy solution. I am breaking one of my rules, and that is reading one book at a time. We're gonna break that rule. Listen, not as bad as I was behind last year. I think last year I got behind like several months, so not as bad. And plus, I understand why I got behind, because I was too busy working on my 28K in 28 days video, which was literally taking up all of my time, energy, and resources, so it's understandable, but I want to fix it. All the days that I missed reading in this, I am now making up, so they're going to be made up for. That's probably the easiest way that I could have said that at the beginning. Anyway, that's why we're only counting the new days, is because the days that I missed in that, I'm going to make up for by the fact that I'm going to finish it. So now we just need to count the days that I've missed since then. Wow, Chey, it was really that easy. Words are so hard. Is that a tick or is that a rock? What are you? It's a rock. That being said, we're still 35 days behind. That's a lot of making up to do. I figured the best way to do that is to read 2 books at the same time. Now, Chey, doesn't this break cardinal rule numero uno? Yes, but this is a limited time only deal. The plan is to pick a book that I would have finished between the deadline when I was supposed to finish that one and one that I would have finished today, or at least have set to finish today. Now, we all know that my estimated dates are usually a little bit longer than what my length of reading usually ends up being. So if I say it's going to take me 30 days to read a book, usually ends up taking me 27. That's fine. I'm not really worried about that. We're just trying to do our best here. So I'm going to be reading 2 books in tandem. The first book is a book that is 35 days worth of reading, about 350 pages, and I'm basically going to be reading it as if I had been reading it this whole time. And I'm going to be reading it in conjunction with my new 10 pages a day book. So really it's going to be like 20 pages a day. By reading these 2 books in tandem, the 35 days worth of 350 pages plus the new book, I am both making up for my past missed days and keeping current with the challenge. That way I don't have to worry about making up more days. What are the 2 books that we're reading? Well, the 350 page book, the one that I'm going to be making up those days with. Another nonfiction, Good Booty by Ann Powers. Love black and white body and soul in American music. I'm really excited about this one. I started it last year, like a couple pages, but I read like 4 pages into it. I didn't get very far. So we're going to start it over, and I'm going to start reading it today. I'm going to try and finish House of the Medici either today or tomorrow. And then the other book that I'm going to be reading in tandem is my current read, not my past makeup read. My current read is going to be Anatomy, a Love Story. I have it on ebook. I don't have it physically with me, but I do have the second book, Immortality, on my physical TBR. I'm going to be reading this one. That way I can know if I even need to keep the second one physically. Because if I hate the first one as an ebook and I don't care for the second, I'm just going to unhaul it and boom, bam, bang. There goes a book off my TBR, my physical unread TBR. Good morning, one and all. If I look like I just woke up, I did. However, I have a little bit of fortuitous news. Well, my hair is going to have a lot in volume, but nonsense. Last night, as I was going to bed, I was laying here, I was reading a lot, and I finished The Rise and Fall of the House of Medici. That's right, baby. One less book that we have to catch up on. We are done, and I'm so happy. I'm so glad to be done with it. Not that it was a bad book. It was actually really good. I rated it 5 out of 5 stars. Especially, probably more like 4.5 out of 5, rounded up. I always feel weird rating history books 5 stars, because in my historical brain, I'm like, something isn't accurate. Something was missed, or like something wasn't added context. Not maliciously, but just because we're human and apt to error. And obviously, I don't know. I'm not gonna sit here and fact check the entire book. It reads just fine to me, though, and so I'm gonna rate it 4.5, 5 out of 5 stars. I learned a lot, I laughed a lot, and mainly I just learned that this author pretty much considered everyone back then ugly. Like, the descriptions of these people were not flattering. And I'm not saying that they need to be flattered, but like, I read these descriptions, I was like, dang, okay. A lot of them, it was like fat and gaunt and just ugly, and I'm like, yeah, it says like perpetual like ugliness, and I'm like, this sounds like a personal vendetta. Either way, that was really good. I really enjoyed delving more into the history of this family. Will I remember every single name and every single detail? Absolutely not. Would I go back and reread this to better learn all of that stuff? Yeah, because I think it was a very accessible read. It's a very heavily detailed read, but it is accessible. I enjoyed it. It was a perfect little 10 pages a day dose, because a lot of the chapters are around 10-ish pages. I loved learning about the details, the depths, the chaos of this family beyond what I was already familiar with, and its long-lasting, reaching effects. By the time we got to this book, we're talking about 1700s, and I was like, when did we get here? I enjoyed it. It was a good time. Well, saying it's a good time may be a little bit dark, but it was a good time. I also read 10 more pages of anatomy last night. I am flying through it. Probably gonna finish it a lot earlier than what I expect, because I read the 15-page mark last night because that got me through 2 chapters. So I say I got through a chapter, I lie, because I got through 2. So I'm on chapter 4 now. It also helps that it has those little vignettes of letters from doctors or whatever you want to call them, the mixed media kind of things. But I'm flying through it. I'm really liking it. I don't know, honestly, I don't know if I would say I'm loving it, but I am really liking it. I'm curious to see where it's gonna go, but I really don't have more to say to you than that, so see you later, alligator. It is May 29th. I, fell behind. Yeah, just to say the least, I fell behind, but I did just finish Anatomy, A Love Story today. So it is finished. I'm only 9 days behind, 8 days behind where I thought I was. Something like that. 8 or 9 days. I was either supposed to finish it on the 20th or the 21st. Whatever. It's done. I gave it a low 4 out of 5. Overall, I liked it. I loved the premise of it. I liked the characters. I liked where the story was going. But there were just too many plot holes for me to ignore. Like, you're telling me that her betrothed guy, by the way, minor spoilers, her betrothed guy is like, I don't want you to be a surgeon, I don't want you to do all this medical stuff. Also, I went by your house and there were, like, you weren't there, but there were, like, men's boots there. And so he's clearly coming by her house to try and, like, check up on her, even though she's avoiding him. Tell me why bro doesn't realize she's running a whole community hospital until someone else that, like, is important to her gets got. How would did he just decide to stop coming around, especially after they are betrothed? Did he just decide to stop? Stuff like that I just, like, narrowed my eyes, and I was like, honestly, I think it could have benefited from being, like, 50, 100 pages longer. I know, controversial opinion. Don't care. I think it could have fleshed out, pun intended, some of the plot points, or plot holes that could have become plot points for more angst. Like, well, I guess the one I was about to name would change around the story, but either way, I think it could have benefited from that. But if you just don't pay too much attention to it, and I'm not saying, like, you turn a total blind eye to it, it's fine. It's a fun time. Now, some of the dialogue, some of the romantic dialogue, top tier. I loved it. And like I said, I love the premise. So low 4 out of 5. I am going to go on and read the second one, mostly because I own it, but I am also curious to see where it goes, especially because of the ending. I'm curious. Will I keep the second book? I don't know. We'll see. I'm glad I read the first one as an ebook, though. I don't know. Anyway, next, we have Streetcar Named Desire. Why did I pick this one? Well, because it's a little over 100 pages, and I'm like 10 days behind, and I figure I can just sit here and read it today and be perfectly caught up. Yes, is it a little bit of a cheat? No, because it's on my TBR and I need to read it. So we're gonna do that today. I'll probably come back with an update for you after I finish this. Yes, Chey, that's the whole point. Oh, I still haven't finished Good Booty, by the way, but I'm working on it. It's just, I've had a little bit of a headache, and I've had a little bit of Minty Bees, like, every single day. So, not really into reading nonfiction, but that's okay. I'm gonna get into reading Streetcar Named Desire. Thank you. Hello. We finished it. Actually, I have my reading journal right here. Let me look and see how far behind I actually was. I was supposed to finish it on 5/20, so that means I would have started the new one on 5/21. So really, I'm only like 8 days behind. I finished this, so now I'm several days ahead, but I'm not going to count it like that, just because that would be too complicated. 140 pages. I probably would have estimated that I would have read this in 10 days anyway. Since I was 10 days behind on finishing my last book by finishing it today, and I finished this in 1 day, I'm just going to count this as, like, for the past 10 days. Like, this makes up for the past 10 days of being late. That's just what we're going to go with, and I'm going to start fresh tomorrow. What am I going to read tomorrow? I don't know. Stay tuned for my next pick, but I have a headache, so I think I'm just gonna kind of watch some anime or some YouTube and drink some water. Yeah. Bye. Hello. It's been a while. It's been a while. I won't do that. Ooh, look. Curly Q? Who? It's July. This is the worst I've ever done in this challenge so far since I've started it, which isn't saying much considering last year was the first full year I've done it. Anyway, this is the worst I've ever done in terms of being behind. I still haven't finished Good Booty, and I'm still reading The Hunting Wives. Yeah, I'm still reading this. Granted, I am a good amount of the way through it, but I'm way behind. I don't even know how many days, and I don't want to know, quite frankly. I'll figure that out later. The problem that I'm having is that this is super easy to read with very short chapters, but I'm hating it. I'm hating it. Because I am the queen of loving unlikable characters. If you need more proof, I'm sorry. I just don't approve of, pedonatry. If you know, you know. This main character has a loving spouse, so far from what we can tell. I thought that part of this, so she's like lusting after this friend group, to be a part of this friend group in this small town, right? Like, these are like perfect women, the rich women, whatever. And she's clearly lusting after the main gal, Margot. And so I thought that there was going to be a turning point of like, oh, her husband's like a crappy guy or whatever, and that's part of why she's using his escapism. No, her husband's fine. Like, he's a great partner so far from what we've seen. I haven't seen any issues with him, personally. Nothing more than just being a regular person. He's not overbearing, he's not jealous, he's not any of those things. He's just a normal human being. And he has, like, some flaws. I think, like, I read things where he was a little bit irritable after sleep. And then the next morning he was like, I'm so sorry, I was just, blah, blah, blah. Nothing irredeemable. Nothing that the average person wouldn't slip up on when they're grumpy or grouchy or hungry. And yet she's still lusting after this woman. I'm sorry, gay rights? Pride by girly. But you're emotionally cheating on your spouse. Like, and you have a son with him, and also the normalization of cheating in this book. Now, if it were other characters, if it were just the normalization of cheating, I could look past this as just being like, they suck as people. They suck as characters. I could live with that. I wouldn't like it. I could live with it. However, it's the normalization of cheating involving, pedonatry. Do-da-dee-da-do-do. Pedo-dee-da-do-do. Dee-da-dee-dee-do. You get it? You get it? Lusting after high school boys actually sleeping with
high school boys!
And, once again, if it were just one of the characters and not our main character, I could look away from it. I would obviously hate it, but I could look at being like, that character just fucking sucks, right? Like, this is not a person we're supposed to be rooting for, right? Like, this is like, we hate her. And that's fine. I could deal with that. However, our main character is looking at one of these 17-year-old boys and being like, his liquid green eye. Woman. What? No. I was willing to just let you be a crappy person lusting after another person when you have a perfectly good husband. But now you're lusting after, boys that haven't even graduated. Yikes! Ooh, I don't want to root for you. I don't want to. So I'm gonna read a couple more chapters because I feel like we're about to finally hit the mystery, the thriller part. But if it keeps going the way that it's going and she doesn't get her act together, I hope that her husband leaves her. I really hope he does. I hope that he leaves with the son and doesn't come back. I just do. I do. He deserves better. I'm gonna read this for a couple more chapters and I'm gonna decide if I DNF. Because it's got me in such a slump and I'm so behind, and now I need to pick like another fiction book to read for this challenge. That way I can just blow through it. Because I will have to come back to you with another update on how far behind that I am. If it doesn't write itself, it's gonna be like a 1 star. Children! Children. Once again, the main character. Children. She also has a son. I want to be like, would you be okay when your son is 17 if a woman your age was like, baby? Like, Hi, besties. Update. Like, 2 chapters later, I'm DNFing. The only reason I'm not pitching it across the room is because I'm gonna donate it to a little free library when I actually go to my library today. This is getting unhauled immediately. If this This cheating pedophilic. Oh, I can't stand her. The chapter that was the final straw for me. She's over at Margot's, right? And they're drinking, whatever. The guy, the teenage, I shouldn't say guy, because, by the way, I should clarify, they do mention that both the boys are 18. I don't care. You're still a grown woman, and they're still in high school. I don't even care if they're 19. Sketch. Very, very, and also the cheating and all that, So, no. I stand on business, and I stand on what I said. What's his face comes over. Margot starts making out with him, stuff like that. Again, I can feel like that character sucks, blah, 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 crappy people. And they're like, oh yeah, the other guy, Mr. Liquid Green Eyes, is coming over. And our main character is like, I should leave. And she even texts her husband, and she says, I need accountability to him, and I need accountability to myself. So, I'm gonna leave by this certain time, that way I can get home. And she keeps making these comments about, how she's the line between tipsy and drunk, as a justification for what's about to happen next, and I don't fucking buy it. Because she says tipsy and between drunk, then why the f do you keep drinking? You're a grown woman. And she's like, Margot's like, oh, peer pressuring her into it. Have some accountability as a human adult, okay? You're an adult. Make your decision and be like, no. I think I won't drink because, that's gonna lead to worse things and worse no decision making. I made a promise to my husband, who is not problematic, that I need to leave. So, her fault. I don't feel sorry for her. I don't feel like that's a justification for her actions. And the fact that people are out here loving this, rooting for the comeback of a... Y'all wild. Y'all wild for that. So, she keeps drinking like an idiot. Again, no accountability, not really an adult in the room. And, what's-his-face comes over, Mr. Green Eyes. And sure enough... Oh, they all end up playing Spin the Bottle, by the way. And she does cheat on her husband because she kisses Margot, and she talks about, she wants more, and she ends up kissing Jamie, the 18-year-old, and in her mind, she's like, but I want more, she has a line where she's like, I'm staring at him, fighting the urge to go over there, sit on his lap, and kiss his neck, and this is before she says that she's drunk. And then, when she is drunk, she goes into, she gets led into the back bedroom by him, and they almost do the deed. But close enough. I mean, it's cheating. She's already cheated on her husband. And now, heavy petting, feeling, all that kind of stuff. But she finally breaks away and leaves. And then she's like, I'm gonna go fight. She's like, I don't want to do this with him. I want Margot. And so she goes to find Margot. Margot's sleeping with the other guy. And she's like, oh, well, I was stupid for thinking that she'd ever want me. I hate her. And so she goes home and she's like, I feel so guilty. I feel so bad. I'm going to wake up and make my boys, her son and her husband, their favorite breakfast. I'm going to hop in the shower, or maybe my husband, won't notice. And basically in the morning, he's, kind of icy to her all day. He's not cruel. He's just, distant and icy. And then she comes out of the shower, or she's getting a drink or whatever later that night. And she's like, hey, what's the problem? She isn't the drama. And he's like, I went through your phone while you were in the shower. And I was like, okay, that's a first strike against you. But honestly, considering what she is, I'll let this one slide, Tex. And she straight up lies to him. She says, I decided to come clean, at least most of the way. No, she doesn't. She comes clean about everyone's dirt but hers. She's like, yeah, the women cheat on their husbands, but she didn't talk about Mr. Liquid Green Eyes or anything like that. Again, no accountability. And I'm okay with characters not having any accountability. When it comes to children, no. No. You're an adult. So she's lying to her husband. Consistently lying to her husband. Being like, I would never cheat on you. I love you. The lady doth protest too much. Yelling at him, not angrily. Being like, I love you. I'd never cheat on you. And I'm like, I am coming for your man. I will take him. Because he deserves better. She basically convinces him he's all upset, and he has this line. Let me read this to you so you know what kind of a man he is. So, she says to herself, it's a lie, but only a half lie. I tell myself, at least I haven't anyone yet. Yet! The word yet! You thinking about it! And then she's like, why'd you wait all day to bring this up to me? And her husband's like, I didn't want to bring it up in front of our son. He doesn't need to hear all this. And she keeps lying to him. And he tells her, he's like, I hate this. And she says, I do too, but I won't hang out with him anymore, if that helps. liar. And then, you know what he says in response to that? He says, you do what you want. You know I'm not controlling like that. But don't turn me into the type of person who feels as though they need to snoop through their spouse's phone. This is a green flag Graham right here. And you just f***ing it up. Because you trying to f*** a woman and an 18-year-old. I hate her. I hate her with every fiber of my being. So this is getting unhauled. Also, if you like this book, I don't trust you. I don't trust you. I immediately do not trust you. Okay. I'm gonna figure out how many days I'm behind, and I need to find something to cleanse my palate. See ya. Coming to you again, same day, same morning, with an update. I just did the date calculations, and actually it's not as bad as I first feared. So, after entering in all the information, apparently I didn't update my journal whenever I started the Hunting Wives. Oops. But when I did the math, my calculations, I would have said, if I had written it down properly, that I probably would have estimated to finish this in like 30 days. Because it's 352 pages, but it's a lot of short chapters and half pages and stuff like that. And I started it on May 30th. So 30 days, I would have ended it estimated on June 28th. But I finished it on July 25th. That's today. So that's a difference of 19 days? No, what am I talking about? Oh, I saw 28 minus 57, which is still not correct. It's a difference of 27 days. So not as bad as I feared, but still not great. So I need to pick out a book that's like 270 pages and then a new book. Or I just need to pick a book and read as fast as possible. And maybe what I'll do is I'll try and find a current read that I have 270 pages of. I don't know, but I just wanted to tell you that. So it's not as bad as I first feared. It's only 27 days. And, yeah, I'll update you whenever I have the new book picked. Would you like to guess what day it is? If you said November 11th, 11/11, make a wish. You're right. Make a wish for me, because this challenge has gone up in flames, and, there's a lot of reasons for that. A lot of personal reasons. A lot of life is lifing. But we need to talk. Obviously, we need to talk. I've been putting off this update for a long time. So I'm going to tell you where we're at, where we're going, what I'm doing with my life. Or at least I'm going to try, okay? Alright. So let me get my reading journal to just make sure that I am factually telling you what's up. It's not good. It's not looking good, fam. It's not looking good. It's not good. But it is, in fact, real. There are a few books, as we stand. So, the last time that I read was I started the beginning of everything, and I think I only read for a day in it. I think I only read, like, one chapter, like, 110 pages. And before that was The Hunting Wives, which I DNF'd, and that was on July 25th. So, July 26th, I got covered. So, let's say from July 27th, right, to a few days ago. Okay? 102 days that I did not do this. 102 days straight. I think I broke last year's record. So I have 1,020 pages to make up. Is that correct math? I think that's correct math. But if I want to. I don't have to, but I kind of want to. But anyway, so I am just kind of starting fresh. But I'm also kind of getting myself into trouble with this, right? Because I had a point where I was going through and I wasn't finishing these books by the time their the hypothetical end date came. And I was like, I'm just going to move on to the next book because I want to crank as many books as possible into this year that I can. And so I'll just tandem read this book that I haven't yet finished with the new book that I start. That way I can still be on the timeline. Obviously, that has not worked in my favor so far, so why would I stop doing it? So, I'm still reading the beginning of everything, which I started on July 26th. Did not really enter in much information after that. It's a book that I got from a library discard sale. My friend Liv, my wifey, said that she was really interested in my take on it because she said it was really important to her in her life, like earlier in her life, and she wants to reread it, but she's really curious for my take on it. And I also started Church of Spies, which is around here somewhere. Please hold on to your pants and jackets and heebie-jeebies and all manner of the like. I started Church of Spies, which is about the secret war against you-know-who, and it's been on my shelf for a very long time. You can see I've been reading it for the past couple days. I've been consistent in reading this. Shocker, I know, but I'm so sorry. But I did actually start this, and I have been continuing on with it. So, to actually get back in the groove to finish the books that I've already started, which, to be fair, there's only 2. There's only Good Booty and The Beginning of Everything. So there is this and The Beginning of Everything. The problem is, right, is that this is a chonker, and this is nonfiction, and it's very academic, and it's very dense to read at times. It's very well written, but sometimes the language that is used is very dense to me to read, to my ADHD self. Beginning of Everything is fiction, so it's a lot easier. I have found that I was like, you know what? Life hack, I'll just go get the audiobooks of these, if they're available, from my library, because I want to start doing a thing where I wind down the night before I get in bed by doing like a craft and listening to like half an hour of an audiobook, or listening for half an hour to an audiobook. And I like that idea. I'm trying to implement that idea, and I was like, what better way to get ahead on these than to at least like have the audiobooks of them ready so I can listen to them a little bit every night, and then I could also just listen to them throughout the day. Lo and behold, it's actually working. And listening to the audiobook of that, so usually I need to retain information with my eyes with nonfiction, I'm actually retaining a lot more information from that book with the audiobook. The audiobook is really well done, and I'm really enjoying it. The Beginning of Everything, same deal. Church of Spies, I still have the audiobook, but I am swapping between reading physically and reading audibly. So that's where we're at right now. It's not great. It's not great, but that is the honest truth. And sometimes, you just gotta pivot and switch gears. Sometimes you just gotta pop that clutch and you just gotta move on. You just gotta move on. So there will be a video this year after all. I thought many times, I was like, this has gone down in flames so much, there's not gonna be a video this year, but there will be. Will it be great? That remains to be seen. But you know what is great? My effort. So I will talk to you later when I actually finish one of these books. See you later. Good evening, y'all. Was that words? It is November 23rd. So we're getting down to crunch time, baby. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, I'm gonna go ahead and spoiler alert, I have not yet made up for the 102 days that I have missed. Will I? I don't know. I kind of hope to, but I haven't yet. But let me show you what has happened in like the past 3 days. Okay, let me show you what's happened in the past 3 days. You ready? I've finished all 3 of these in like the past 3 days. I just want you to soak that in, because I am so super proud of me. This is crazy. This is crazy to me that I really just quit for like 102 days. I'm not knocking myself for that. Life happens. But it's crazy to me that like I quit for that long and then I just bam, 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 wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. And I will tell you why. It's my strategy that I implemented, where I was like, okay, so Chey, how about we explain what's going on? So I finished my 2 backlog books, the ones that I was supposed to finish, and then when I got to the date that I thought I was going to finish them, I was like, oh, I'll just go ahead and start the next one, and I'll just finish it later. What's wrong with me? Why would you let me do that? Why did you let me do that? Why didn't you stop me? Anyway, I finished both of these, and then my current book, the one that I am reading currently, not backlog, it's my one, I finished this one today. I could have finished it yesterday because I got to the epilogue, which is 10 pages, and I was like, nope, we're gonna be honorable. We're going to be honorable. We're going to finish it 10 pages a day. So I did, and I finished this today. So, the past 3 days, I have finished them. That audiobook, I should have thought of that audiobook thing a long time ago. But granted, I didn't really start doing the audiobook thing until this year. I still don't like doing the audiobook thing. I think it's that I had to learn what kind of books I can listen to on audiobooks and what books that I couldn't. Because there are some that I can't. Like romance, if it's got steam in it or spice, cannot listen to an audiobook. It just makes me laugh or makes me cringe. There's no in between. Unless it's a monster romance, which then I think are kind of tongue-in-cheek, no pun intended, anyway, so I can, but I would enjoy it more like physically or e-read. But nonfiction and stuff, I can't do high fantasy and stuff like that on audio. I need to be able to see the words and go back and forth with my eyes. But like nonfiction stuff, so super helpful. So super helpful. Especially if I have the physical book. That way, when I hear something, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I'm gonna go back in that chapter physically and read or annotate that. It's so helpful. It's so helpful. And also this is like YA, or at least new adult, so it blew through pretty quickly. I'm going to go over the quick reviews of these with you. Hold on. I don't want my TV to freak out. Alright, let's start with the oldest one on the list, which I believe is Good Booty. This is a nonfiction book about love and sex, black and white, body and soul, in American music. This was so well done. The problem that I had with this is that it's too good, that it's too smart. And I say that in a loving way because there are just some academic texts that I think are accessible for a lot of other people, but for me, with my history student brain, I tried to intake everything I can like it's going to be an exam, and that's on me. I think the author made this very accessible, because when I listened to the audiobook, I got it. But me trying to read all the words with my eyes, I'm like... And that's also on ADHD. But I love this book. It was so fascinating, so interesting. I can't wait to go back through it and actually annotate it, because I did make notes of various chapters where I want to go through and research on some more subjects. I actually even told Julia, you know my bestie Julia. If you've been around here, you know my bestie Julia. On my main channel, you know my bestie Julia. But I told her, I was like, we need to buddy read this, because there are things to talk about. The discussions between, not just race, but in general, the discussions around society and the pressures and the context that are put not just on genders, but the ages throughout the year. So there's a whole discussion of the teenagers in the 50s and how that actually meant something in comparison to them becoming as adults in that, which is a whole discussion with rock and roll that I've heard time and time again. But the discussion that was had in here, juxtaposing Elvis, Buddy Holly, and Chuck Berry or Little Richard was really fascinating, because I've never heard it put that way. And that pretty much goes for all this book, that even if you're like me and you are just entrenched in rock and roll or music history, I guarantee you there are points in this book you have not heard. I would be willing to bet a piece of pie on it. Like, it is so fascinating and so well done. Now, this might be an old argument for some people, but I think it's the first time I ever heard it. There is the hypothesis that Robert Plant got a lot of his aesthetic from Janis Joplin, got a lot of his stuff from Janis Joplin. I was like... And also, I felt so super smart. I gotta brag on myself for a minute, because this author, when talking about Janis Joplin, because she was just juxtaposing Janis, Jimmy, and Jim, you know, all part of the 27 Club. And when she was talking about Janis Joplin, she quoted some Ellen Willis articles, which, as y'all know, I read some Ellen Willis articles. Was it for last year? I read that book of essays by Ellen Willis, but there were a couple of quotes that she had from Ellen about Janis. I'm getting Joan, Joan, about Janis. That actually, the one that I think I quoted in the video about she was a casualty, not a victim. Whatever that quote was, I was like, I know where that's from. I've read that. So see, that it's all interconnecting. It's all interweaving. Anyway, I recommend you go pick this up. The audiobook is also really good. If you have any interest in music or gender studies or anything, just rock and roll or music in general, especially in American culture, fascinating read. Absolutely fascinating. The Beginning of Everything by Robin Schneider. This is is it young adult? It seems like it would be classified as young adult because they are in high school. So, it starts out, our main character is sort of the it boy at his high school. He's like the star tennis player, he's like the president of the student government, student body, or his class, whatever it's called. He has high hopes for, you know, future schools, being recruited on a tennis club, very like shishi school. And then he is leaving a party one night, a car crashes into him and basically screws up his leg. He can never play tennis that same way again. It changes his life, neurological damage, all of that. And so he is basically coming to terms with this reckoning on his life and how his position, not just in school, but in his own life, and how his identity has warped around that, is changing. And it really gets thrown for a loop. Wow, I did not mean that pun intended, but it really gets thrown for a loop when this new girl comes to school named Cassidy. And I know what you're thinking, Manic Pixie Dream Girl. And I felt like that for a lot of this book, but that's not how it happens, so you can relax. And the beginning of this book actually begins with a decapitation at Disneyland, so that's the first chapter. Overall, I thought this was a very fun, very quick read. Also great on audio, great physically too, but the audiobook is great, the narrator's great. I thought it was a pretty realistic depiction of high school, and also, it depends on how realistic you like your high schoolers, but I thought that the high schoolers represented here, I thought their conversations were pretty realistic. The humor was pretty good. They got into some funny situations, some funny conversations, but the emotional maturity that some of them had in the right moments was such a breath of fresh air. Now, don't get me wrong, they are high school students. They're not represented as being the height of emotional maturity, but there's some hindsight moments where they're looking back after they had an outburst or whatever, and they have these self-realizations that you're like, wow, this is so much better than a lot of books that sometimes just, like, keep it going for angst. You know, like, they look back and they're like, actually, you know what? I realized that she was right about, you know, XXX or whatever. And it's just so good to see that. It was such a good representation of maturity for a band of ages that a lot of books love to represent as immature for the sake of a storyline, you know? And I just like that. I like that it actually showed growing up for kids who were being placed right in that time zone of when they should be growing up, or when they should be growing up, getting out of high school. I feel like I did not say that well whatsoever, but you should read this. I liked it a lot. It didn't have drama just for drama's sake. It didn't drag out any typical high school outburst or high school drama for the sake of angst. When there was drama, it had a little bit of drama, as all books do, but the way that it always ended up was just like resolved with hindsight, maturity, or at least reflection later that made sense. Speed run round. Church of Spies. This is the latest book we just finished, just today. I cannot tell you how good it feels to be caught up. I was telling my mom, I was like, I really wish that I had kept up with this all year. Again, I'm not beating myself up for it, but it feels so good to look at these 3 books and be like, wow, man. Wow, man. Like, it just feels so good. Because these have been on my shelf. Well, this one at least has been on my shelf for a lot of years. Shocker, this is a nonfiction book about the Pope's secret war against, you know, the bad guys in that very one specific war. I'm still not sure what YouTube will doink me for or not. As someone who is entrenched specifically in this era of history, I thought this was wonderful. It was written in an engaging but also plain-spoken way that honored the truth of the details and honored the truth of the brutality. It didn't pull things to make it palatable, nor did it push things to make them shocking. It is a little bit narrative at some points, but it kind of has to be because it's telling you the details of the stories that happened to these people. But the amount of depth and research and detail that went into this to weave everything together in a way that makes sense, that you can see it happening so clearly along the timeline that's laid out before you, and it's not just a list of facts, is done very well. People give history and nonfiction a bad rap because so often it is either just like narrative and you feel like you're in storyland, or it feels like a bullet point list of facts, and it just like, this blends the perfect world. It's narrative when it needs you to get into the world to understand how these things are actually playing out in reality, but then goes into the more factual mode whenever you need to learn the setup for where our narrative is taking us next. And again, as someone who is very entrenched in this world and in this era of history, I learned so much that I did not know, and that is very exciting. I have another book on my TBR on my shelf that's been on there for a while that seems like an immediate counter to this, considering the reviews and the back that I've read. But, like, because this essentially talks about how the Pope was stuck between a rock and a hard place at the time from various actors, but he tried to do the best with the resources that was able to do against this evil. I also think it does a pretty good job of not trying to pet the Pope too much, of being like, oh, well, it's okay, he should have done more, but, you know, it's okay. No, I think it's a pretty fair depiction of like, well, this could have been done, but this was also the reason that they decided to do this or decided to not do this, or at least this is what's been stated on the record, stuff like that. This other book that I have seems a pretty set depiction against the Pope, being like, no, this is what it was about, and this is why he sucked when it came to this era, or when it came to these decisions and stuff like that. It seems very antagonistic in comparison to this, but that may be the way it's being marketed, because I read the foreword in it because I thought about reading it right after this one as my next book. That way I could, you know, compare and contrast. And the author has a note where it's like, I've gotten a lot of hate over the years, because it has like a new foreword or something. The author's like, I've gotten a lot of hate claiming that I've done this and this and this, and it's like, well, those people clearly didn't get into the book. And I'm like, so I'm willing to give it a chance. And I'm not against hearing antagonistic takes on certain things or against certain books. I think it's important. As long as there are facts and things to back it up, I think it's important to hear the sides of historical interpretation. But there has to be a way of doing it. Again, it has to be backed up by facts. It has to be backed up by documentation. It can't just be, well, this person sucked because I said so. That shouldn't be marketed as history or nonfiction. That should be marketed as a Reddit rant. Okay, calm down. But considering what the author said, I am still going to give it a chance, but I think I'm going to let it breathe for a while, and I'm going to save it probably for just like another personal read. But I am going to stay in this era of history, unfortunately. My next book that I have already chosen is one of the chonkiest on my TBR shelf for my nonfiction. It's The Monuments Men. Yes, still in this era, but slightly different subject. As a historian, as an archaeology girly, as an art history girly, thanks to Julia, y'all knew. Ever since that I first learned about the whole Monuments Men thing years ago, I have been fascinated by them. So this has been on my TBR for a very long time, but I didn't own a copy until recently. Well, not super recently. Now it's been probably 8 years. Anyway, it's been on there way too long. It's been on my shelf way too long. And I've been fascinated with it for so long. I don't know why I've held off on reading this book. I think because of how I feel with every history book where I'm like, I'm not going to be able to understand it. And it's like, Chey, you were a TA for so many classes involving this era of history. When it comes to what you specialized in at Georgetown, this era was it. What do you mean you're not going to understand a book that's marketed to the mass public? I don't know. I'm just here. And, Footloose. But yeah, I'm finally gonna get into this. So, if you don't know who the Monuments Men are, it's George Clooney and Matt Damon. No, they played them in the movie. If you don't know what the Monuments are, if you don't know what the Monuments Men were, they were a group of allied forces, so like museum curators, directors, soldiers, all of those people who, during this wartime, were basically sent to track down these treasures that the Axis powers were stealing, storing away, destroying, taking from the people that they were subjugating, all of that. They were tasked with hunting them down, finding them, getting them back to the right owners, getting them back to the museums, and just making sure that they weren't destroyed. If you love art, if you love history, if you just love kind of spy stories, I'd recommend looking into them, as well as the OSS and Church of Spies, honestly, as well. But yeah, I'm so excited to get into this one. And I don't know why I've staved it off so long. It seems so accessible, dude. There's even like documents in here. You can see that. There's just half of it's documents. What have I been waiting on? Chey, you're smarter than that. Give yourself some credit, girl. But yeah. What is my estimated days on this? How many pages is it? Okay, so it's like 470 pages, but total pages, 426. So I estimate this will probably take me 40 days, or I can be optimistic and say 38. So this might take me to the new year, or very close to the new year, depending. And I'm going to start tomorrow, so I'll see you on the other side. I just did a whole big dramatic sigh to intro this video, and then I realized I didn't even hit record. So, we're here. It's 11/11. Make a wish. I was gonna say, it's January 6th, but I don't even have a date on this watch. Make a wish. But it's over. We're done. It's the start of the new year, which means we need to wrap up this video and get out of here. I was going to make a separate clip to talk to you about when I finish this book, but then I figured I would just put it here since this is going to be the end of the video anyway. I ended up finishing this right at the end of the year, and I feel like it was such a good way to end the year because it's not necessarily a super happy light subject, but I don't know. I felt like this was a very December read for me. For some reason, I feel like December is my like nonfiction Hemingway-esque journalism type book month. I don't know, dude. But I thought this was really well done. It was really fascinating. It got me invested to look more into this work and into the individuals involved in this work. Not to mention the legacy that it still has today, that the work is still ongoing. And it can get into a whole other like branches of how it's currently happening with art theft and art rings and the tragedies of art that is happening around the world in various countries and various theaters of the world. I had to think of how to phrase that properly. I haven't filmed this late in a very long time. I felt like this was really accessible, and I liked that it was a balance between the narrative and the nonfiction, if that makes sense. I didn't feel like it was too fact-heavy, and I didn't feel like it leaned too hard on being a narrative of these people's lives that aren't sitting here telling it, that it's being told through someone else. Obviously, artistic liberties were taken in recreating some of these stories, but I felt like it was very truthful considering the documents that were provided and supported this. I felt like I got to know the individuals that we were following along with, and in a way that was respectful to them, but also intriguing enough to me to go and do more research on my own. George Stout reminds me a lot of my own grandfather, to the point where I was like, I wonder if they ever ran across each other, because my grandfather like served in the same thing, which I know. It's like seeing a person from Ohio and be like, oh, I know this person from Ohio. Do you know them? It's like, it's a big state. But listen, my granddad, weirdo. Okay, he was probably everywhere and probably talked to somebody at some I'm not making sense. It was good. And if you have any interest in art or art history or how art survives tragedies and what seems like incalculable or insurmountable odds, you should read this because it's very relevant. It's very relevant. Still relevant. I haven't seen the movie, but I am curious to. I'm curious to see how it portrays this work. And now we're at the end. I told Patty that I would wear this hat for most of the end of the video, but now it's getting like really hot here, so I'm just gonna take it off. Alright, we're gonna live without it. We're at the end though, we made it. So how did we do? Honestly, not too shabby. And spoiler alert, I did not make up that 102 days that I missed. I don't even think I made up even one day of it. I don't think I made up any of it. And you know what? That's okay. That's fine. Because look at this. I still finished all of these. Well, with an exception. I finished... Don't look at this one. She's just here for exemplary purposes. Besides this one, I finished all these just 10 pages a day. And that's missing 102. If you even skip 102 days or miss 102 days, you can still read this much. Like, come on now. I do this every year, and yet I'm still like, man, when I actually see it all together, it's so satisfying, and it's such a relief off my shoulders, even though it's a giant weight in my hands. Right now, you can see it slowly sinking down like my will to keep talking.
Get up here!
And it feels good. It feels good to get these off my list. It feels good to get these off my shelf. And that's what this whole thing is about. To be like, man, these have been languishing too long. They deserve the time and attention because I still have the interest in them. And I'm always so glad that even if I didn't end up loving them, I'm so glad that I ended up getting to them and trying them. And wow, we conquered some real monsters this year. In more ways than one. So let's quickly talk over some stats, shall we? What if I just dropped this? I had the intrusive thought that I was like, let's go over some stats, shall we? And then I just went and dropped it. If I didn't love these books, I probably would have for the meme, but I actually like these books. So intrusive Chey is not going to win this time. All in all, I finished 9 books and 1 was a DNF. No, that's not actually 8. So I had 10 books. I finished 9. 1 was a DNF. Let's just get over the DNF first. Let's review. This I would drop without a second thought. This I would fling off a cliff without being miffed. I could go the rest of my life without ever seeing the cover of this book again. I could. I genuinely could. And then list number 37 of segues that you did not ever expect. At a wedding in Alabama, I talked to someone who actually did a whole podcast about this book. She was also a bridesmaid. And she gave me some interesting new perspectives on this when we were actually talking about it, and I said, that's really cool. I'd still rather listen to your podcast, because she had to do it, I think it was for a college class, but I was like, I'd still rather listen to your podcast than read this book and support it. I hated it. I got to page like 177, and that's like pretty much halfway through, and I called it quits. That's all I could do. That's all I could take, and I'm unhauling it. Now that I have featured it in this video and talked about it for the wrap-up, now I can get rid of it. I can sell it. Honestly, I don't even want to sell it. I just want to toss it out. It takes it out of me to even think about dealing with this. That's how much this freaking exhausts me. I hate this book. I think that's probably the biggest epic fail that I felt icky saying that. That's probably the biggest failure that we've ever had in these videos that I can think of. And honestly, I hope that is the biggest failure to come. But it gets off my shelves, and I don't have to deal with it anymore, so that's good. You're donezo, big dog! Get out of here! What the hell am I doing keeping my laptop over there? A grill is a grill. This is surely so. A patty is a patty. If you're new here, if this is your first rendezvous with the 10 pages of... Was that a siren or a bug? If this is your first time watching a 10 pages a day video, then I'm going to explain something to you real quick. I don't just tabulate pages as in like counting up all the pages of all the books that I read. I actually do it in two different ways. Because if you notice, I read a lot of nonfiction books. And if you have read a nonfiction book or you've seen a nonfiction book, you probably notice that a good chunk of it tends to be like an index or a bibliography at the end. The stuff that we don't really read unless you're a nerd. And I am. But, some of these books I'm not so much of a nerd about that I need to read the index. But maybe one day if I ever need it, I will, and I'm glad that it's there. But we generally don't count that when we're like, oh, I read this many pages, right? I feel like that's personally cheating for me to be like, oh yeah, I read this 500-page book, and only 400 of it is the actual text, and 100 of it is like the index. And I know, it's a technicality. Technically, Chey, it's 500 pages. Well, technically, milk is milk. So I count it different. I say total and actual pages. Total is obviously the pages that I read plus the index. And in the actual pages, is that right? Yes. And in the actual pages, I count as just the actual pages that I read. The pages that I actually read. This is gonna suck in editing, and I'm gonna have to redo all this. I should've just went to bed. And a hairdresser. Jeez Louise. Why are we always blaming Louise in this situation? What about Louis? You know, Louis have been at the issue of a lot of problems. Ask France. Why am I getting... This is not time for anti-imperialist... It's always time for anti-imperialism. So, my actual... I meant to say total. My total number of pages, so that means the pages that I read plus the indexes and all that. The total number of pages between all these books is 3,239. The actual pages, so that means the pages that I actually read, was 2,826. It would have been 3,001 if I had finished Hunting Wives, but because I only got to 177, it is 2,826 pages that I actually read. So, 3,200 versus 2,800. I don't think that's as significant a difference as last year's video, but you see why I feel like I need to be honest, I need to be forthcoming about it, because I feel like it's cheating from like, yeah man, I read over 3,000 pages. I read that index about Winston Churchill. What about it? Get a life. Winston Churchill probably wishes he could. Even more exciting for me personally is that 9 of these books were my physical TBR, which is freaking awesome. And you're like, Chey, there's 10 books in the stack. You were right, my friend. You were so very right. You were so very right. Hold on. Magna Carta. Magna Carta is an ancient document forged by the people. What if someone made like a wiki reading video of the Wikipedia article of the Magna Carta, but read it in the cadence of the Fitness Gram Pacer test is a multi-stage aerobic capacity test. Oh god, now I have to make that. So, 9 of these, there are 10 books there, 9 of these, you're gonna have to trust me, were on my physical TBR. Don't look at me like that. And you're like, Chey, there are 10 here. Yes, there are. And, one of us is gonna have to be straight, and it's not gonna be me. This one, I did not actually read. I know. This one's Immortality. I don't own Anatomy. So this is the second book in the series, and I think I got this one first. But I read Anatomy, and I had the digital copy of it. I had the ebook copy. But since it's the same series, I just put it here to represent it. Okay? So, yeah, 9 of these were on my physical TBR. Not including her. But she is on my physical TBR. So, it kind of all comes full circle. Or whatever. But yeah, sick, dude. 9 of these suckers off my shelf. And actually, where did it go? Oh, she's over there. Okay, yeah, so listen. Hunting Wives over there, I'm not picking it back up. You know it's here. You know it's here in spirit. But she was on my physical TBR, but she's going bye-bye. So, whatever. It works out, alright? Get off my case. I will tell you my biggest disappointment, and this one really kind of hurts me. Honestly, The Sun Also Rises by Hemingway, which I know, it's sad. But I didn't hate it, but just in terms of disappointment, it's not my favorite Hemingway. It's just not. It doesn't have the things that I love about Hemingway's writing style in his other books. And, like, For Whom the Bell Tolls, and this is the earlier stuff, right? Like, I have one tab in here. Is that from me or someone else? Let's see what I tab, because this looks like my tab. Gentlemen, he said, and unwrapped a drumstick from a piece of newspaper. I reversed the order for Brian's sake, as a tribute to the great commoner. First the chicken, then the egg. Wonder what day God created the chicken. In case you think I'm joking. Thank you, Chey. Thank you. Yeah, so I didn't hate it. I liked it. I think I ended up giving it like 3.5 stars. It's probably my least favorite Hemingway, though, in terms of novels that I've read so far. Like, I think this is probably my least favorite. In terms of the best books that I read, they are going to go to Good Booty and The Rise and Fall of the House of Medici. Monuments Men is very, very close. These also have their drawbacks. Like I have said in this video, the language and presentation of this book feel a little convoluted sometimes. I don't feel like it's as accessible as some of the other nonfiction, but the audiobook was wonderful. The audiobook, it clicked for me a lot better than reading the words did. So if you're going to do immersive reading or you're going to do the audiobook, I think that's much more approachable for like the cavalcade of information that's in this book. And it is a really good cavalcade. It is so interesting, and it introduced me to so many concepts, especially regarding the social spheres and the anthropological, that is the correct terminology. Go Chey, look at us having an education, repercussions of the different generations and what that meant for music and what that meant for society as a whole, especially regarding the differentiations between like Buddy Holly, Elvis Costello, stuff like that. It was so fascinating, and it's stuff that I will be revisiting and going back to, but the presentation a little bit convoluted for me. This, on the other hand, kind of suffered from the same issue, so I don't know why I said on the other hand. I guess it's because it's literally on my other hand. Lawyer Chey kicking in. I have a thing where, like, whenever I'm debating or arguing or whatever, I get really into the specifics of words, and people call it my Lawyer Chey mode. But I feel like this suffers from some of the same issues. Number one, it talks a lot about people's looks. I remember that. I remember talking to y'all about that. I remember being like, God, I really had it out for calling these people uggo. And, don't know why, but there it is. But I was endlessly fascinated by this, and I remember it being accessible, and I remember it satisfying a lot of my curiosities. I feel like if you have a basic interest in this, you will be satisfied, and I feel like if you have a deeper interest in this, you will be satisfied and also not left hanging. Like, it will give you enough to quench your thirst, but also inspire you to look for more, and I think it's really good on those various levels for the information seeker. And now thinking back on it, like, now I'm ready to read more about Italian Renaissance history. I'm looking at you, Magnifico. That's been on there for forever. That book about Lorenzo de' Medici up there, yeah, that sucker's gonna be read this year. I just decided that. That's it. Holy crap, we did it. I'm gonna get you out of here because it's been 20 minutes that I've been filming this. Ew. But thank you so much for sticking around if you stuck around for this whole thing. I'm gonna keep this yearly tradition going because I like it. I think it's fun. And yes, I do have a solely dedicated booktube channel now, Anna Shate, link in description below, and probably up in the cards, where it is just a dedicated booktube channel. I do book vlogs, I do book challenges, just book discussions, did I say book challenges already? Probably, book vlogs, whatever the hell I want to do regarding books over there. It's just a solely dedicated booktube type channel. Does that mean I'm not going to do booktube videos on here anymore? No, I am, but they're going to be more than just, like, book vlogs. I'm not really going to do book vlogs on this channel anymore. Except for these videos, obviously. These aren't going anywhere, because I think they're fun and I say so. There will be videos centered around books on this channel, but it's going to be more than just, like, a city and talky type vlog. But if you love book videos, if you love booktube, go check out that other channel. Give it a like, maybe a subscribe if you like that sort of bookish chaos going on over there. I would appreciate it a lot. And you'd probably appreciate me not making that face at you ever again. Got it? Noted. But as for here, I'm so excited that the new year has started because I feel like I've got a fresh start and I'm getting a jump start on all these new ideas that I actually want to come to life on this channel this year. So, if you want to see me talk about vampires, sharks, corn, hit the subscribe button down below and see what's up, see what's going to happen, because I promise you it's happening. It's happening. Like an omen, you will know of its arrival when it happens. If you subscribe, if you hit the subscribe button window, if you hit the subscribe button down below, you will know when it foretells of its own arrival. But for now, that's gonna be it. So, thank you everybody so much for watching, and if you ain't heard it from anyone else today, I love you, love and peace.